Have you ever stood in the garden centre, staring at a giant wall of colourful bags and bottles, all screaming about miracles for your plants, and felt completely and utterly lost? You just want your tomatoes to be red and your flowers to bloom, but you're faced with a confusing code of numbers and chemical names. It's enough to make you want to give up. But what if I told you that understanding all of this is actually simple? What if the secret to a thriving garden isn't a mystery at all, but a language you can learn right now? In this video, we're going to crack the code. We're breaking down everything you need to know about the main fertilizers for your garden, and I promise by the end of this, you'll be able to walk into that store and pick the perfect food for your plants with total, unshakable confidence. Before we dive into the what, let's talk about the why. Why do we even need to fertilize? Think of your garden soil like a kitchen pantry for your plants. When you first establish a garden, that pantry is fully stocked with all the nutrients a plant could want. But every time you grow a crop of carrots or a beautiful crop of zucchini, those plants are taking groceries out of the pantry. They use up those nutrients to build their stems, leaves, and fruits. Over time, that pantry starts to get a little bare. Fertilizing isn't some strange, unnatural process. It's simply restocking the pantry. We are putting back the essential elements that the plants have used, ensuring that the next generation of plants has everything it needs to grow strong and healthy. It's the fundamental cycle of giving back to the soil what we take from it. So let's start with the big three. You've seen them on almost every bag of fertilizer. 3 numbers separated by dashes, like 10-10-10 or 5-10-5. This is the N-P-K ratio, and it is the single most important thing to understand. N stands for nitrogen, P stands for phosphorus, and K stands for potassium. These are the 3 primary macronutrients, the main course of your plant's diet. Every single plant on Earth needs these 3 elements to survive and thrive. The numbers on the bag simply tell you the percentage by weight of each of these nutrients in the fertilizer. So, a 100-pound bag of 10-10-10 fertilizer contains 10 pounds of nitrogen, 10 pounds of phosphorus, and 10 pounds of potassium. Getting this concept down is the first giant leap toward becoming a fertilizer master. Think of it as a recipe on a food label. It tells you exactly what you're feeding your garden. Let's zoom in on the first letter, N, for nitrogen. If you want to remember what nitrogen does, just think green and leafy. Nitrogen is the primary driver of vegetative growth. It's the key component of chlorophyll, the compound that makes plants green and allows them to perform photosynthesis, turning sunlight into energy. When a plant has enough nitrogen, you'll see it in its vibrant, lush, dark green leaves and strong, rapid stem growth. It's the nutrient that makes your lawn look like a green carpet and your lettuce heads full and crisp. If a plant is deficient in nitrogen, the first sign you'll often see is yellowing on the older, lower leaves. The plant is smart. It will pull the mobile nitrogen from its old leaves to send it to the new growth. So if you're growing anything where the leaves are the main event, like spinach, kale, or cabbage, nitrogen is your absolute best friend. To really visualize nitrogen's role, picture a young cornstalk in early summer. Its main job is to grow tall and produce as many big leaves as possible. It's in a frantic race to create a massive solar panel factory to capture sunlight. This is where nitrogen is the star player. With adequate nitrogen, that cornstalk will shoot up. Its leaves are deep, healthy green, almost like a jungle plant. But if that same cornstalk is nitrogen deficient, it will look stunted. The lower leaves will start to turn yellow in a distinct V shape, starting at the tip of the leaf and progressing down the middle. This is the classic textbook sign of nitrogen deficiency in corn. Seeing this visual cue in the field is like the plant sending you a direct message. I need more of the green stuff. It's a powerful and immediate indicator of what's happening beneath the soil. Now for the second number in our trio, P for phosphorus. If nitrogen is about up for leafy growth, then phosphorus is about down and out. Think roots, flowers and fruits. Phosphorus is absolutely essential for energy transfer within the plant. It helps a plant capture the sun's energy and convert it into useful compounds. This energy is critical for establishing a strong, extensive root system, especially in young plants. A healthy root system is the foundation for a healthy plant. But that's not all. Phosphorus is also the trigger for blooming and fruiting. It's the nutrient that helps your tomatoes set fruit, your roses produce big beautiful blooms, and your carrots develop a solid taproot. If a plant is trying to reproduce, whether through flowers, fruit or seeds, it needs a healthy supply of phosphorus to get the job done. Let's visualize the power of phosphorus. Imagine two tomato plants side by side. The one with enough phosphorus has a thick, sturdy stem and a web of healthy roots spreading deep into the soil, anchoring it firmly. When it's time to flower, it produces clusters of vibrant yellow blossoms. Many of these blossoms successfully turn into small green tomatoes, promising a bountiful harvest. Now look at its phosphorus-deficient neighbour. The plant itself might look okay, maybe a little smaller, but the leaves might have a slight purplish tinge, which is a classic sign. The real problem is what you don't see underground, a weaker root system. When it's time to flower, it might produce fewer blossoms, and many of them might simply fall off without setting fruit. It just doesn't have the energy reserves to make the jump from growing to reproducing. That's the critical role of phosphorus in action. Finally, we arrive at K for potassium. If nitrogen is for growth and phosphorus is for reproduction, potassium is for overall health and vigour. Think of it as the plant's immune system and internal regulation system. Potassium helps regulate many of the plant's internal processes, including photosynthesis, water uptake, and protein synthesis. It strengthens the plant's cell walls, making it more sturdy and resilient against stress. A plant with sufficient potassium can better withstand drought, extreme temperatures, and is more resistant to pests and diseases. It's the nutrient that helps your potatoes form large, dense tubers and ensures your tomatoes are juicy and flavourful, not mealy. It doesn't necessarily create dramatic visual growth like nitrogen, but its absence creates a weak, vulnerable plant. It's the silent guardian of the garden. To see the effect of potassium, or the lack thereof, let's go back to our tomato plant. A plant with plenty of potassium has strong, thick stems that can hold the weight of heavy fruit without bending or breaking. It can handle a hot, dry afternoon without wilting dramatically because its cells are efficient at managing water. The fruit it produces is uniform in colour and ripens evenly. In contrast, a potassium-deficient tomato plant might show yellowing along the edges of its leaves, starting with the older ones. The stems might be weaker, and the plant is more likely to fall prey to common fungal diseases. The fruit itself might suffer from a condition called yellow shoulder, where the top of the tomato near the stem remains hard, yellow and unappetizing, even when the rest of the fruit is red. This is a direct result of the plant not having enough potassium to manage its internal processes properly. So now we know what N, P, and K do. But how do we interpret the numbers on the bag? Let's take a balanced fertilizer like 13, 13, 13. The numbers are equal, meaning it provides an even dose of all three primary nutrients. This is a great general-purpose fertilizer, a jack of all trades for when you just want to give your garden a balanced meal. But what about a fertilizer like 5, 10, 5? Here, the middle number, phosphorus, is double the others. This is a bloom booster, or a starter fertilizer. It's designed specifically to promote strong root growth in young plants and to encourage lots of flowers and fruit on plants like peppers or roses. Conversely, a fertilizer high in the first number, like 2100, is pure nitrogen. This is what you would use on your lawn in the spring to get that rapid, green growth. Understanding these ratios allows you to stop using a one-size-fits-all approach and start giving your plants exactly what they need at different stages of their life. This leads us to one of the biggest myths in gardening. If a little fertilizer is good, then a lot must be better. This is completely false and incredibly dangerous for your plants. Applying too much fertilizer, especially the fast-acting synthetic kind, leads to a condition called fertilizer burn. The high concentration of nutrient salts in the soil actually starts to pull water out of the plant's roots through osmosis. Instead of absorbing water, the plant is dehydrating. The signs are stark. You'll see yellowing or browning along the edges of the leaves. They'll look scorched or burnt, and the entire plant may wilt and die, even in moist soil. It's a classic case of killing with kindness. Always read the instructions on the package and err on the side of using less, not more. You can always add a little more later, but you can't easily take it away once it's in the soil. While N, P, and K are the stars of the show, plants also need a supporting cast of secondary macronutrients. These are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. They are needed in smaller quantities than the big three, but they are no less essential. Calcium is vital for building strong cell walls. Think of it as the skeleton of the plant. It's famous for preventing blossom end rot in tomatoes and peppers. Magnesium is the central atom in the chlorophyll molecule, so without it, plants can't be green and can't perform photosynthesis. A common sign of magnesium deficiency is yellowing between the veins of the older leaves, and sulfur is a key component of several amino acids and vitamins, essential for plant growth and giving crops like onions and garlic their distinctive flavours. Many good quality fertilizers and composts will contain these secondary nutrients, so you often don't have to worry about them unless a soil test shows a specific deficiency. If the primary and secondary nutrients are the main meals and side dishes, then the micronutrients are the vitamins. Plants need them in absolutely tiny trace amounts, but their absence can cause major problems. These include elements like iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, and molybdenum. Iron, for example, is critical for chlorophyll synthesis. Iron deficiency often looks a lot like magnesium deficiency, with yellowing between the veins, but it typically appears on the newest leaves first, because iron isn't mobile within the plant. Boron is crucial for pollination and fruit set. A lack of boron can lead to hollow stems in broccoli, or poor fruit development. For most home gardeners, you don't need to stress about these individually. Using compost and organic matter is the best way to supply a broad spectrum of micronutrients, as they are naturally present in decomposed materials. Now we come to the great debate, organic versus synthetic fertilizers. This can be a heated topic, but let's break it down calmly. Synthetic fertilizers, also called inorganic or chemical fertilizers, are manufactured products. Think of brands like Miracle Grow. They are designed to deliver specific, concentrated nutrients directly to the plant in a water-soluble form. This means they are very fast-acting. Organic fertilizers, on the other hand, are derived from once-living matter. This includes things like compost, aged animal manure, bone meal, blood meal, and fish emulsion. They are complex materials that contain not just NPK, but a wide range of other nutrients and organic compounds. There is no better option. They are simply different tools for different jobs, each with its own set of pros and cons. The choice often comes down to your gardening philosophy and your specific goals for your soil and plants. Let's make the case for organic fertilizers. The single biggest advantage of organics is that they feed the soil, not just the plant. Organic matter, like compost, is full of beneficial microorganisms, fungi, and bacteria. When you add it to your garden, you are feeding this entire soil ecosystem. These microbes break down the organic matter slowly, releasing nutrients over a long period. This slow-release nature means it's very difficult to burn your plants with organic fertilizers. Furthermore, adding organic matter improves your soil structure. It helps sandy soil hold more water and helps clay soil drain better. It creates a rich, crumbly, and resilient soil that is the foundation of a healthy garden. The downside is that they can be slower to act and the exact nutrient content can be less precise than with synthetics. Think of it as a healthy, balanced diet versus a quick energy drink. Now let's look at the case for synthetic fertilizers. Their primary advantage is speed and precision. Because the nutrients are in a simple water-soluble form, they are immediately available for the plant to absorb. If you have a plant that is showing clear signs of a nutrient deficiency, a dose of liquid synthetic fertilizer can show visible results in just a few days. It's like giving an intravenous drip to a sick patient. The NPK ratios are precise and guaranteed, so you know exactly what you're applying. This can be very useful for container gardening, where the potting mix has limited nutrients, or for giving a specific crop a targeted boost at a critical growth stage. The major drawbacks are the risk of fertilizer burn if over-applied, the potential for nutrient runoff to pollute waterways, and the fact that they do nothing to improve the long-term health and structure of your soil. Fertilizers also come in different physical forms, and the most common is granular. Granular fertilizers are small, dry pellets that you sprinkle onto the soil or mix in. They can be either synthetic or organic. Their main benefit is their slow and steady release. As you water your garden, the pellets slowly dissolve, releasing their nutrients over weeks or even months. This provides a consistent, stable food source for your plants. It's a set it and forget it approach that is great for long season crops and for general garden bed preparation at the beginning of the season. You simply work it into the top few inches of soil, and the rain and your watering schedule will do the rest. This method is efficient, reduces the risk of nutrients washing away, and requires less frequent application than other forms, making it a favourite for many gardeners. The other major form is liquid fertilizer. These come as a concentrate that you dilute with water and apply using a watering can or a hose end sprayer. Liquid fertilizers are the sprinters of the fertilizer world. Because the nutrients are already dissolved in water, they are absorbed almost instantly by the plant's roots and even through its leaves in a process called foliar feeding. This makes them perfect for giving a quick energy boost to plants that are struggling, for feeding heavy feeding container plants, or for providing a jolt of phosphorus to encourage blooming. The trade-off for this speed is that they don't last long. The effects are immediate but fleeting, and the nutrients can be washed out of the soil quickly, requiring you to reapply them more frequently, often every 1 or 2 weeks during the peak growing season. Knowing when to fertilize is just as important as knowing what to use. Timing is everything. As a general rule, you want to feed your plants when they are in their active growth phase. For most annual vegetables and flowers, this means starting in the spring and continuing through the summer. You don't want to fertilize heavily late in the fall, as this can encourage new, tender growth that will be damaged by the first frost. But the best way to know when to feed is to learn to read your plant's signals. Are the leaves looking a little pale? It might be time for a nitrogen boost. Are your pepper plants full of leaves but not producing any flowers? You might want to switch to a fertilizer higher in phosphorus. Observing your plants is your most powerful tool. They will tell you what they need if you learn to listen. So how do you actually apply these fertilizers correctly? For granular types, the most common method is broadcasting. This just means scattering the pellets evenly over the surface of the soil and then gently raking them into the top inch or two. For planting new seedlings, you can mix a small amount directly into the planting hole. Another method is side dressing, where you apply the fertilizer in a shallow trench or a band a few inches away from the base of established plants. This directs the nutrients to the root zone without letting them touch the stem, which can cause burning. For liquid fertilizers, the key is to drench the soil around the base of the plant thoroughly, ensuring the solution reaches the entire root zone. Always, and I mean always, water your plants well before applying any kind of fertilizer. Applying it to dry soil is the fastest way to cause fertilizer burn. It's also crucial to remember that not all plants are created equal. They have different dietary needs. For example, heavy-feeding plants that produce large fruits like tomatoes, corn, and squash are very hungry. They will benefit from a balanced fertilizer at planting time and then supplemental feedings throughout the season. On the other hand, leafy greens like lettuce and spinach primarily need nitrogen to produce those tender leaves, so a high nitrogen fertilizer works best for them. Root vegetables like carrots and beets need more phosphorus and potassium to develop what's underground, and too much nitrogen will just give you lots of leafy tops and a tiny little root. Legumes like beans and peas are magical. They have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria that allows them to pull their own nitrogen from the air, so they need very little, if any, nitrogen fertilizer. Finally, we come to the ultimate secret weapon for perfect fertilization, a soil test. Everything we've discussed is great, but it involves a bit of guesswork. A soil test removes the guesswork entirely. You simply take a few samples from different spots in your garden, mix them together, and send the sample off to your local cooperative extension or a private lab. For a small fee, they will send you back a detailed report telling you the exact levels of N, P, K, secondary nutrients, micronutrients, and, just as importantly, your soil's pH level. The report will give you specific recommendations on exactly what kind of fertilizer to add and how much. It might tell you that your soil is already sky high in phosphorus and you should stop adding it. Doing a soil test every few years is the single best investment you can make in your garden. It saves you money on unneeded amendments and ensures you're giving your soil precisely what it needs to be productive. So, what's the big twist? The stunning reveal at the end of all this? It's that fertilizing isn't about memorizing brand names or blindly following a rigid schedule. The real secret is that you've just learned a new language, the language of your plants. Understanding NPK is like learning the alphabet. Now you can read the recipes on fertilizer bags and know what they mean. You know that nitrogen is for green growth, phosphorus is for roots and blooms, and potassium is for overall health. You understand the fundamental difference between building your soil for the long term with organics and giving a quick, targeted boost with synthetics. The most powerful tool you have is observation, combined with the ultimate truth teller, a simple soil test. You are now equipped to stop guessing and start making truly informed decisions for your garden. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If this video helped demystify the world of fertilizers for you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more simple, straightforward gardening advice. And now I have a question for you. What's the biggest fertilizer myth you've ever heard or a mistake you've made in your own garden? Share your story in the comments below. Let's all learn from each other.